The Fourth Sense, Unlocking Inner Vision, by David Russo. Introduction. What if there's another sense? You've been using your entire life, without ever being taught its name. Not sight, not sound, not touch, taste, or smell, but something quieter, subtler. A moment when you just knew not to take that job. A pause before an accident that saved you seconds later. A feeling in your chest that said yes, before your mind assembled a reason. Most of us have experienced this, and just as quickly, most of us learned to ignore it. We were taught to trust what could be measured, proven, explained. We were rewarded for logic, speed, certainty, and somewhere along the way, we turned down the volume on the part of us that doesn't speak in words at all. This audiobook is about turning that volume back up. I call it the fourth sense not because it's mystical or supernatural, but because it's natural. It's the human ability to perceive patterns, meaning, and direction before conscious thought catches up. Neuroscience calls it subconscious processing. Artists call it inspiration. Athletes call it being in the zone. You may have called it luck, coincidence, or instinct, but none of those words quite capture it. The fourth sense is inner vision. It's the intelligence beneath thought, and it's been quietly guiding you longer than you realize. Modern life is loud. Notifications, opinions, deadlines, comparisons, endless input, with very little space to listen. The problem isn't that intuition disappeared, it's that it can't compete with constant noise. Inner knowing doesn't shout, it doesn't argue, it doesn't demand, it waits, and when we're finally still enough, it's there. This audiobook isn't about abandoning logic. Logic is powerful, necessary, but logic alone is slow, limited, and often blind to what hasn't fully formed yet. Your brain is processing far more information than you're consciously aware of at any moment. Body signals, emotional cues, micro-patterns, environmental data. The fourth sense is how that information reaches awareness. Firefighters sense danger before a roof collapses. Doctors feel something is off before test results confirm it. Athletes move before they think. Musicians hear the next note before it's played. This isn't magic, it's mastery of inner perception, and mastery can be trained. Throughout these chapters, we'll explore how intuition actually works, why it's often confused with fear, and how synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences that seem to arrive at just the right time, are less about chance and more about alignment. You'll hear real-world examples, not fantasies. You'll practice short, grounded exercises designed for real life, not retreat centers. And you'll learn how to strengthen this sense without becoming impulsive, arrogant, or disconnected from reality. Because inner vision without humility isn't wisdom, it's noise in a different costume. This is about balance, awareness, trust built slowly. Before we go any further, let's begin with a simple experiment. No effort required, no belief required. A 2-minute listening practice. If it's safe to do so, pause whatever else you're doing. Take one slow breath in through your nose, and let it out gently through your mouth. Now don't look for anything, just notice. Notice the sensations in your body, not to analyze them, just to register them. Notice any subtle feelings of ease, tension, curiosity, or resistance. Notice what arises when there's nothing to solve. If a thought appears, let it pass. If nothing appears, that's fine too. This is the signal beneath the noise. You don't need to interpret it. You don't need to trust it yet. Just notice that it exists. Over the course of this audiobook, you'll learn to recognize the language of these signals, distinguish intuition from fear, and apply inner knowing responsibly to decisions, relationships, creativity, and purpose. You won't be asked to become someone new, only to remember what you already know. The fourth sense was never lost. It was simply waiting for you to listen. Chapter 1. The sense you were never taught. There's a moment almost everyone remembers, even if they've never spoken about it out loud. A moment when you knew something before logic arrived, before evidence showed up, before anyone else agreed with you. Maybe it was the feeling that made you hesitate at an intersection, seconds before a car ran the light, or the quiet certainty that told you to call someone you hadn't spoken to in years, only to learn they needed you that very day. Or the sense that a decision was wrong, even though on paper it made perfect sense. These moments are often small, ordinary, easy to dismiss, and yet they leave an impression, because they don't feel like guesses. They feel like recognition. Most of us were never taught what to do with experiences like this. In school, we learned to raise our hands for answers we could explain. We were rewarded for certainty, speed, and logic, but no one taught us how to recognize inner signals, how to tell the difference between imagination and insight, impulse and intuition. So, we learned something else instead. We learned to doubt ourselves. Over time, that doubt became automatic. The moment an inner signal appeared, we asked for proof. When proof didn't arrive fast enough, we ignored the signal. When things worked out anyway, we called it coincidence. And when they didn't, we blamed ourselves for not thinking it through. But here's the truth most people never hear. The fourth sense isn't mystical, it isn't rare, and it isn't reserved for a gifted few. It's a natural human ability, one that modern life has quietly muted. Your brain is constantly processing vast amounts of information beneath conscious awareness. Tone of voice, body language, patterns from past experience, environmental cues, emotional shifts. Long before your thinking mind assembles a conclusion, your nervous system has already registered meaning. That registration is what we call intuition. Firefighters talk about sensing danger seconds before a structure collapses without seeing or hearing anything specific. Elite athletes move before they consciously decide. Experienced doctors feel when something is wrong with a patient even when test results look normal. They aren't guessing, they're listening. They've learned to trust signals that arrive before words. The difference between them and most people isn't that they have a stronger fourth sense. It's that they were trained often unconsciously to pay attention to it. And attention changes everything. Guided exercise. 2 minutes of listening. Let's begin gently. If you can, pause for a moment. Sit or stand comfortably. Take one slow breath in, and let it out without forcing it. Now shift your focus away from your thoughts and toward your body. You're not trying to relax. You're not trying to feel anything special. Just notice. Notice areas of tension or ease. Notice subtle sensations, warmth, heaviness, lightness, movement. Notice if there's a quiet sense of yes, no, or neutrality about simply being here. If your mind starts explaining, judging, or narrating, that's okay. Let the thoughts pass and return to noticing. This is what inner listening feels like. Simple, unimpressive, real. The fourth sense doesn't arrive as a dramatic voice or sudden certainty. It shows up as small signals, easy to overlook, easy to ignore, but incredibly consistent when you learn their language. You don't need to trust these signals yet. You don't need to act on them. For now, all you're doing is remembering how to notice. Because before intuition can guide you, it has to be heard. And that's a skill you're already capable of, whether you were ever taught it or not. Chapter 2. Why logic isn't enough. Logic is a powerful tool. It helps us build bridges, diagnose illness, balance budgets, and make sense of a complicated world. We're taught explicitly and implicitly that good decisions are rational decisions, that if we just gather enough information, weigh the pros and cons carefully, and think it through long enough, the right answer will reveal itself. But here's what life quietly teaches us. Some of the most important decisions can't be solved like math problems. There are moments when every logical box is checked, and something still feels wrong, and other moments when the numbers don't fully add up. Yet a calm certainty says, this is it. Consider a familiar story. A person chooses the smart path, the stable job, the safe relationship, the decision everyone agrees with. On paper, it's perfect, yet months or years later, they feel drained, restless, misaligned, unable to explain why success feels so hollow. Then imagine a different moment, a leap that made no immediate sense, one that couldn't be justified cleanly, but somehow led to growth, meaning, and momentum. Logic didn't fail because it was bad. It failed because it was incomplete. Your brain is not a courtroom deliberating one fact at a time. It's a pattern recognition engine, constantly comparing the present moment to everything you've ever experienced. Long before you consciously decide, your nervous system has already formed a directional signal based on millions of data points you can't consciously track. Neuroscience confirms this. The brain often initiates decisions before conscious awareness catches up. Conscious reasoning then steps in not always to decide, but to explain the decision after the fact. This is why intuition often feels instantaneous, and why logic sometimes feels like it's chasing something that already moved. We see this everywhere in the real world. Chess grandmasters don't calculate every possible move, they recognize patterns. Experienced doctors don't consciously analyze every symptom. They sense when something is off. Seasoned entrepreneurs know when a deal ain't right even if the spreadsheets say otherwise. They're not ignoring logic. They're using it after intuition points the direction. The problem isn't that we rely too much on logic. It's that we rely on it alone, especially in situations involving uncertainty, people, timing, or meaning areas where not all variables can be measured. Logic works best with stable conditions and clear rules. Life rarely offers either. Guided exercise, head versus gut reflection. Take a moment to think of a decision from your past, one that mattered. It could be a relationship, a job, a move, or a conversation you avoided or pursued. Ask yourself the simple questions. What did my logical mind say at the time? What did my inner knowing say, if anything? Now notice what happened afterward. You're not judging yourself. You're gathering data. Did you feel tension when you ignored your inner signal? Relief when you followed it? Did logic eventually catch up to what you already sensed? This exercise isn't about regret. It's about pattern recognition, your own. Because intuition becomes trustworthy not when it's perfect, but when it's understood. Logic isn't the enemy of intuition. It's its partner. Logic explains. Intuition orients. When you allow intuition to point the direction and logic to support the journey, decisions stop feeling like battles and start feeling like alignment. And alignment isn't about certainty. It's about moving forward with clarity, even when the path hasn't fully revealed itself yet. Chapter 3. The Language of Inner Signals. If intuition spoke in full sentences, we'd never miss it. But it doesn't. Inner knowing doesn't announce itself with certainty or volume. It doesn't argue its case or demand attention. More often than not, it arrives as something easy to overlook: a sensation, a feeling, a subtle shift in the body, a tightening in the chest, a lightness in the stomach, a quiet curiosity that won't go away, a calm sense of no, even when nothing seems wrong. This is why so many people say, "I don't have intuition." They do, they're just listening for the wrong language. We expect intuition to sound like thought, but thought is loud, fast, and verbal. Intuition is slower, quieter, and physical. It speaks through sensation before it ever forms an idea. Think about how artists describe their best work. They don't say, "I reasoned my way to the painting." They say the idea arrived fully formed. Musicians talk about melodies appearing before they know where they came from. Inventors describe solutions showing up while walking, showering, or resting, not while forcing an answer. That's not coincidence. When the thinking mind relaxes, the deeper mind can communicate. Your body is a crucial part of this communication system. It registers safety, danger, attraction, and resistance long before your thoughts catch up. This isn't emotion in the dramatic sense, it's information. And when you learn your own signals, they become remarkably consistent. For one person, intuition might feel like expansion, a sense of openness or ease. For another, it might feel like stillness. For someone else, it shows up as discomfort that doesn't escalate, just quietly insists. Fear, by contrast, is urgent, repetitive, demanding. Intuition is steady, neutral, patient. The challenge is that we often override these signals because they don't come with explanations. We ask, "Why do I feel this way?" And when no answer appears, we assume the feeling must be meaningless. But meaning doesn't always arrive in words. Learning the language of inner signals isn't about decoding symbols or assigning mystical interpretations. It's about familiarity. Just like learning a new accent, you begin by listening, not translating. Guided exercise, body-based awareness. Take a moment now to check in. You don't need to close your eyes unless you want to. Bring your attention gently to your body. Notice your breathing without changing it. Notice your shoulders, your jaw, your stomach. Notice any areas that feel tense, heavy, open, or relaxed. Now think of something neutral like your name. Notice how your body responds. Next, think of something that feels supportive or aligned for you, however you define that. Notice the difference. Then think of something that feels slightly off or draining. Again, notice. You're not analyzing, you're observing. Over time, patterns will emerge. Certain sensations will consistently show up around yes, others around no. This is your personal intuitive vocabulary. Inner knowing doesn't demand obedience. It invites relationship. The more often you pause to listen, the clearer the signals become. Not louder, clearer, and clarity doesn't require force. In a world trained to shout, intuition whispers. But once you learn its language, you realize it's been speaking to you all along. Chapter 4: Synchronicity. When meaning shows up. Have you ever experienced a coincidence so striking it felt meaningful? The phone rings with a message from someone you were just thinking about. You take a different route home and run into an opportunity you weren't expecting. A book falls off a shelf with the exact insight you needed at that moment. These moments can feel like magic or like the universe is conspiring in your favor. In reality, they're neither random nor mystical. They are synchronicities, the alignment of attention, intention, and opportunity. Here's the secret. Synchronicities aren't found by chasing signs or wishing for miracles. They appear when your awareness is tuned, your intuition is listening, and you take action, even small steps toward what matters to you. In other words, synchronicity is the signal you notice when you are paying attention to life in a connected, present way. Consider real-world examples. A career pivot sparked by a chance conversation at a coffee shop. A friendship that begins because two people happen to sit next to each other at an event. An idea arriving fully formed when the right question is asked, often by someone else or by circumstances outside your control. Notice a pattern? Life doesn't hand out coincidences randomly. It aligns them with attention, your inner awareness, your openness, your readiness. These are the magnets. This is why many people miss synchronicities. They're distracted, running from task to task, scanning only for the obvious. Opportunities appear, but they're invisible because the mind is too noisy. Learning to notice synchronicity is about developing awareness and trust. You're not looking for luck, you're listening for alignment. Guided exercise. Synchronicity tracking. For the next week, carry a small notebook or use your phone to record any meaningful coincidences you notice. 1. A repeated number, phrase, or symbol. 2. An unexpected message, phone call, or meeting. 3. A situation that seems coincidentally timed to provide insight or guidance. Don't overanalyze. Just note what happened, how you felt, and what decision or action followed. At the end of the week, review your notes. Patterns often emerge, tiny threads connecting intuition, attention, and opportunity. You'll notice how your awareness acts like a magnet, drawing meaningful moments closer. Synchronicity is proof that inner knowing doesn't operate in isolation. Life responds when you pay attention. It's not magic, it's alignment. The more you practice noticing, the more often the universe or your life seems to whisper, "You're on the right path," and that whisper, subtle as it is, can guide you farther than logic alone ever could. Chapter 5: Noise, Distraction, and the Lost Signal. We live in a world designed to steal your attention. Notifications ping, emails flood in, news scrolls endlessly, and opinions your own and everyone else's clamor for recognition. Our brains are under constant bombardment, and in the midst of this storm, the quiet voice of intuition struggles to be heard. The fourth sense, the subtle inner knowing we've been cultivating, is easily drowned out by noise. Not the literal noise alone, but the mental clutter, worrying, comparison, obsession, and urgency. When the mind is overstimulated, the signals that once guided you become muted, obscured, or misinterpreted. The more input we consume, the less we can listen to our own internal compass. Consider a day like this. Your phone pings as you try to focus on a task. An email arrives just as you finish a call. You glance at social media and suddenly, an hour has passed. By the end of the day, you feel exhausted, reactive, and disconnected from your own judgment. Decisions feel heavier, and you can't remember what you were truly thinking or feeling. This is modern life at full speed, and it's a serious challenge to intuition. Yet the solution is deceptively simple. Pause. Silence is not emptiness. It is space for your inner signal to reemerge. Even a few intentional minutes of stillness or disconnection can restore your connection to your inner voice. Athletes, performers, and leaders all know this intuitively. The moments before a big game, a presentation, or a critical decision are often spent in quiet, in ritual, or in focused breathing. Noise is removed, and clarity is allowed to surface. Real-world research confirms this. Studies show that the brain consolidates information and forms intuitive insights when it has periods of low stimulation. Your mind literally needs space to connect dots it can't consciously see in the chaos of constant input. Guided exercise. 5-minute sensory reset. Take a pause right now, wherever you are. 1. Sit or stand comfortably. 2. Close your eyes if possible. 3. Take 5 slow, deliberate breaths, noticing the movement of air in your body. 4. Let your attention drift to your senses one at a time. Sound, touch, temperature, movement. Don't judge. Don't analyze, just notice. 5. As thoughts arise, imagine them as clouds passing through the sky of your awareness. Return to your breath. After 5 minutes, open your eyes. Notice any subtle shifts, slight relief, a sense of calm, or even just the awareness that you can hear yourself again. The fourth sense isn't lost. It's just hidden beneath the noise. By creating small pockets of stillness and intentionally reducing mental clutter, you reclaim the ability to notice subtle signals. When the world quiets, intuition speaks, and when you're ready to listen, the guidance has been waiting all along. Distraction is temporary, presence is permanent, and presence is the gateway back to your inner knowing. Chapter 6. Fear versus Intuition. Fear is loud, intuition is quiet. That's the simplest way to tell them apart. Fear demands attention. It shouts, danger, hurry, protect yourself. It creates urgency and tension, pushing you toward action or paralysis. Long before you've fully assessed the situation, fear thrives on drama. It exaggerates consequences, replays worst-case scenarios, and confuses potential with probability. Intuition, by contrast, is calm. It doesn't yell, argue, or demand. It whispers. It presents a signal without panic. It nudges you in a direction without forcing a decision. Intuition doesn't rush, it aligns. Yet in practice, we often confuse the two. A racing heartbeat, a knot in the stomach, a sense of hesitation. These are classic fear signals, but we mistake them for intuitive guidance. Or we dismiss intuition as fear, questioning whether the quiet certainty we feel is real or just wishful thinking. Think about moments in your own life. A presentation you dreaded, a risky decision that felt unsettling, a conversation you avoided. How often did fear masquerade as intuition? Or intuition whisper while fear screamed? The stakes feel high either way, but the source of the signal changes everything. Real-world examples abound. Public speakers, entrepreneurs, and athletes all report that the first, loud impulse is often fear, but the second, subtle nudge is what leads to peak performance. A musician hesitates before a solo, heart racing, only to play a note perfectly when she trusts the calm guidance beneath the tension. A business leader feels the pressure to act aggressively but senses quietly to pause, and that pause prevents a costly mistake. The key is learning to distinguish voice from voice. Fear pushes and panics. Intuition points and steadies. One is reactive, the other is responsive. One escalates, the other aligns. Guided exercise. Identifying fear versus intuition. Take a moment to reflect on a current decision or challenge in your life. 1. Close your eyes and bring the situation to mind. Notice what physical sensations arise. Is your body tight, urgent, restless, or calm, grounded, steady? 2. Observe the thoughts that accompany these sensations. Are they repetitive, what if scenarios fear, or neutral, directional nudges intuition? 3. Ask yourself, if I act on this signal, will I feel aligned afterward, or reactive? You may notice both fear and intuition are present at the same time. That's normal. The practice is to pause, breathe, and allow clarity to emerge. Let fear inform you. It's a useful, protective tool, but don't let it override the quiet guidance of your inner knowing. Intuition never shouts. It doesn't panic. It doesn't pressure. Fear is urgent. Intuition is steady. The more you practice noticing the difference, the more your decisions will be guided by clarity rather than chaos, by alignment rather than reaction, and by a sense of trust that your inner voice has been reliable all along. When you can distinguish the two, fear becomes a signal to slow down, and intuition becomes a compass for moving forward. And in that space, life begins to feel less like a series of battles and more like a guided journey. Chapter 7: Strengthening the Fourth Sense. Intuition in a gift reserved for a select few. It's a skill, and like any skill, it gets stronger the more you practice it. The difference between someone who trusts their inner guidance and someone who doubts it isn't luck. It's consistency, attention, and deliberate cultivation. Think of a musician learning a new instrument. At first, every note feels uncertain. The hands hesitate, the ear strains, and mistakes are frequent. Over time, practice rewires the body, sharpens perception, and builds trust between mind and hand. Intuition works the same way. At first, signals are subtle, easily ignored, or doubted. But each time you notice and act, or even simply observe without judgment, you reinforce the connection between your conscious awareness and your inner knowing. Elite athletes, chess players, and performers don't rely on magic. They train their unconscious mind until it can make split-second decisions with precision. Their brain has learned to detect patterns, anticipate outcomes, and respond before conscious thought even arrives. That's what we're building when we strengthen the fourth sense. Unconscious mastery. The challenge in finding intuition is trusting it. Early attempts often come with uncertainty. You may misinterpret signals, hesitate, or overthink. That's natural. The practice isn't about perfection, it's about consistency and reflection. Every small decision you approach intuitively is an opportunity to learn and recalibrate. Strengthening intuition also requires attention to your body, emotions, and environment. Quiet moments, deliberate pauses, journaling, and mindful observation all feed the skill. You're teaching yourself to notice patterns that were always there, to distinguish subtle cues from noise, and to build confidence in acting on them. Guided exercise. Daily micro-decisions. For the next week, practice making small, everyday decisions intuitively. These could be as simple as choosing what to eat without overthinking, deciding which route to take home, selecting a book or article to read, answering a text or email based on what feels right, rather than what seems logical or convenient. After each decision, pause briefly to reflect. What signals did you notice in your body or mind? How did it feel to trust your inner knowing? What did you learn about yourself? The goal isn't perfection. It's building awareness, feedback, and trust. Every small intuitive choice strengthens your capacity for larger, more complex decisions. Your fourth sense is like a muscle. It can atrophy if ignored, but it grows stronger with attention, practice, and reflection. Consistency builds trust. Trust builds clarity, and clarity builds freedom. The freedom to navigate life guided, not just by external rules or opinions, but by a steady, reliable inner compass that has always been there. With practice, intuition stops being a whisper you occasionally hear. It becomes a dependable guide, woven into every decision, every action, and every moment of alignment in your life. It's not magic, it's mastery. And mastery is something you can cultivate every single day. Chapter 8: The Ethics of Inner Knowing. Intuition is powerful. It can guide you to opportunities, protect you from mistakes, and open doors you didn't even know existed. But like any power, it comes with responsibility. Inner knowing is not a free pass to act impulsively or justify desires without reflection. To wield it wisely, it must be paired with humility, self-awareness, and ethical consideration. The fourth sense is not about ego. It doesn't belong to a person trying to prove themselves right or dominate a situation. It belongs to someone willing to listen, discern, and act in alignment with values larger than themselves. Acting solely on gut feelings without reflection can lead to mistakes or worse, harm to yourself or others. Intuition is guidance, not a mandate. Consider leaders who have achieved extraordinary results. Their success is often described as instinctive or visionary. but the underlying truth is balance. They listen to inner signals and weigh consequences. They combine awareness with responsibility. Intuition without ethics can become arrogance. Ethics without intuition can become rigidity. The two must work together. The same applies to everyday life. Acting on intuitive insights requires honesty, integrity, and a willingness to consider perspectives beyond your own. Using intuition to manipulate, shortcut, or justify impatience is a misuse of inner vision. Using it with awareness, compassion, and reflection is mastery. Guided exercise, grounding practice for ethical intuition. Take a moment now to connect with your inner guidance. 1. Close your eyes and take 3 deep, steady breaths. 2. Bring to mind a decision or action you feel drawn to, something small or large. 3. Ask yourself, if I act on this guidance, who will be affected? How will it impact others? Is this aligned with my values? 4. Notice any physical sensations or emotions that arise as you answer. Intuition often speaks through the body. Tension may indicate misalignment. Ease may signal coherence. 5. Pause before acting. Let both insight and reflection guide your next step. This simple practice trains you to use intuition responsibly, ensuring that your inner guidance serves not only yourself, but also the greater context of your life. The fourth sense is a gift, but gifts can be misused. Acting without ethics leads to missteps. Acting without reflection leads to arrogance. The most effective inner knowing comes from the balance of trust and responsibility. When your intuition is guided by values, your decisions carry weight, clarity, and integrity. You don't just move through life, you move with purpose, alignment, and respect for the world around you. Inner vision becomes truly transformative not when it's acted upon alone, but when it's acted upon wisely. This is the mark of ethical mastery: listening deeply, deciding responsibly, and living with intention. Chapter 9: Living in Alignment. Alignment is a word that sounds simple, but in practice, it is profound. To live in alignment means your actions, decisions, and values are coherent, not forced, not accidental, but in harmony with your deeper knowing. It's the place where your inner compass, the fourth sense, meets the choices you make in daily life. When you move from this space, life feels lighter, decisions feel easier, and purpose feels tangible. Most people live out of alignment without realizing it. They chase goals because society says they should, take jobs for status rather than passion, or maintain relationships out of habit rather than connection. And over time, the dissonance grows, energy drains, joy fades, and even success can feel hollow. Logic alone can create progress, but intuition aligned with values creates fulfillment. Alignment isn't perfection. It isn't a checklist of ideal choices. It's coherence, noticing when something resonates internally and having the courage to follow it, even when the world around you pushes otherwise. It's making decisions that feel right in your body, calm in your mind, and congruent with your principles. When alignment is present, external pressure no longer dictates your inner peace. You do. Consider real-life examples. A person changing careers after realizing their previous work drained them, not because of failure, but because they were listening to subtle signals their logic had ignored. A parent adjusting priorities to spend more meaningful time with family, guided by quiet awareness rather than social expectation. A creative professional choosing a project that feels inspired rather than convenient. These are all moments of alignment, choices that honor inner truth over external noise. Guided exercise. Values-based intuition check. Take a moment to reflect on an upcoming decision or choice. 1. Identify the core values that matter most to you: integrity, curiosity, connection, creativity, or any others that resonate. 2. Bring the decision to mind and ask, how does this choice align with my values? 3. Notice bodily signals or emotional responses. Does your body feel calm, open, and energized, or tense, constricted, and heavy? 4. Reflect briefly. Does this action feel coherent with who I am and who I want to become? Even small daily decisions can be refined with this practice. Over time, it trains your fourth sense to operate not only as a guide for what's immediately right, but for what's consistently true for you. Living in alignment transforms life from reactive to intentional. Decisions no longer feel like battles between fear and desire, they feel like navigation with a steady compass. The fourth sense is no longer just a whisper, it becomes a clear guide, connecting values, actions, and awareness. Alignment doesn't promise perfection, but it promises coherence, and coherence creates a life that feels deeply yours, anchored in clarity, trust, and the quiet power of inner knowing. Your life isn't a series of coincidences or compromises. It's a reflection of your alignment, cultivated one intentional decision at a time. Chapter 10. Remembering what you already know. The fourth sense was never taken from you, nor did it disappear with time. It simply faded into the background. As we grow, we're taught to prioritize reasoning, consensus, and outside validation. We learn to question ourselves, to analyze endlessly, and to hold back until certainty arrives. In doing so, the quiet internal guidance that was always present gets drowned out by noise, doubt, and routine. Yet the reality is simple. The understanding you seek already lives within you. Your body holds memory. Your mind recognizes familiar patterns. Your awareness detects harmony and imbalance long before words appear. Intuition isn't something mystical that suddenly arrives, it's a resurfacing, a recognition of what has always been there, waiting to be acknowledged. Clues appear constantly in ordinary moments, a hesitation before saying yes, a sense of ease or discomfort around a choice, a subtle pull toward or away from a situation. These signals are expressions of inner knowing. Those who seem effortlessly guided aren't more gifted, they're more attentive. They listen often, notice recurring signals, and respond with consistency. What transforms intuition is repetition. Hearing it once is fragile. Hearing it daily builds strength. With time, guidance no longer feels faint or unreliable, it becomes steady and clear. Choices feel less heavy. Life flows with more ease. Possibilities become easier to recognize because you're no longer fighting your own awareness. Guided exercise, inviting inner knowing. Find a calm place and give yourself a few uninterrupted minutes. 1. Close your eyes and breathe deeply, allowing tension to soften. 2. Gently bring a question or situation to mind. Hold it without pressure or expectation. 3. Pay attention to physical sensations, emotional shifts, images, or fleeting thoughts. This is the language of your fourth sense. 4. Accept whatever emerges, no matter how subtle. Picture yourself moving forward with that insight guiding you. Afterward, take a moment to reflect. What changed when you acknowledged what you sensed? Even the smallest recognition strengthens trust. Each moment of listening deepens clarity. Remembering what you already know isn't about discovery, it's about attention. The fourth sense never switches off. It becomes dependable when you choose to notice it. Make space for listening. Pause regularly. Observe without judgment. Reflect honestly. Trust deliberately. A life shaped by inner knowing isn't flawless, but it is grounded, genuine, and aligned. The fourth sense walks with you throughout your life, steady and available. Now, you're learning to recognize its voice, rely on it, and let it inform how you live. The wisdom was never missing. It was waiting. Conclusion: stepping fully into your inner vision. As this exploration comes to a close, remember, the fourth sense isn't an endpoint. It's an ongoing relationship, a way of engaging with life that brings clarity, depth, and alignment. It doesn't need to be earned or chased. It asks only for presence, cultivation, and trust. Each intuitive nudge, quiet realization, or meaningful coincidence strengthens your connection to a broader awareness of yourself and the world. Life rarely offers certainty. Conditions shift, challenges arise unexpectedly. Logic alone struggles to keep pace. But when thoughtful analysis is paired with inner guidance, decisions gain confidence and direction. You begin responding instead of reacting, moving in ways that reflect your values, purpose, and inner truth. Your fourth sense won't always lead to perfect outcomes. That's not its role. Its purpose is alignment, helping you grow, learn, and move coherently through experience. And that alignment matters more than flawlessness. Each pause to listen, each mindful choice, each moment of awareness builds a more authentic way of living. The practices you've explored are simple by design, yet powerful through repetition. Noticing bodily cues, tracking subtle impulses, recognizing meaningful patterns. separating intuition from fear. Together, these habits form the groundwork of trust, and trust is what turns awareness into wisdom. Move forward with patience and courage. Slow down enough to perceive. Listen deeply enough to understand. Trust yourself enough to act. Remember that every moment offers a chance to realign with the internal guidance that has always been there. Living through the fourth sense isn't about control. It's about presence, integrity, and quiet confidence. It's about navigating life with clarity and intention, grounded in the knowing that what you seek has never been outside you. Carry that awareness with you. Pause, observe, trust, move forward. Let your inner vision shape what comes next. This is not the end, it's the beginning.